Good morning, Paul from Vietnam. Thanks a lot for spending your afternoon joining our Inside Sharing show and share your stories with our global audience. Now, on behalf of our listeners, I want to say thank you for your generosity to join.
Of course. Thank you, Ha.
Hey, Paul, in our culture, I know that you haven't been to Vietnam yet, and you're planning to go to our country. So please accept our invitation. So the next time you travel here, please let me know, and then so we and our family will take you around town, show you about our cities and our people. Okay.
I love that. Thank you for your hospitality.
Uh, And Paul, in our culture, it's very honored if we can have you to do a little introduction about who you are and the works that you do. Would you do that for us, please?
Of course. I'm Paul Zach. I am a professor at Claremont Graduate University, which is in the Los Angeles region in California. And I helped develop some interdisciplinary fields like neuroeconomics, neuromanagement, and neuromarketing. Because I'm a very practical person, I'm trying to develop tools that can solve problems that individuals and organizations face.
Hmm.
And those tools generally have a neuroscientific basis. And in that quest, I've started four companies. My current company is called Immersion NeuroScience, that has democratized neuroscience by allowing anybody to measure what people's brains love in real time by applying data to the smartwatches they already own.
Wow. You introduced your whole career journey and the works you do in less than a minute. So we need to examine
We're
that
all
all
done.
together. All right, Paul. So let's travel time because we wanna know how what made you doing all of these amazing work over the years. All right. So when I was young, Paul, I wanted to become an astronaut to travel, space, right? Life did not give me any chance doing anything near, that the love that I want to do. So when you were young, what was your aspiration about your future and the works that you're gonna do?
That's a good question. I think I had many, many aspirations, and they changed on a very rapid basis. Um, I grew up in a family with three sisters and no brothers. I was the only son. So my father, who's an engineer, would eat dinner as fast as possible and then go to the garage and build stuff and
Uh-huh.
talk. And so um, the things I like doing are understanding mechanisms and building things. And one of the great things about my father was he let me play with all kinds of expensive equipment where he worked at a university in California, and just said, like, this is how you work it. Here's a bunch of graduate students that were using this. Ask some questions. I got to go do stuff, and I'll get you later. And so that sense of play and curiosity, I think, was played right into my own personality. So I'm a very curious person, and really how I'm very curious about people.
Mm.
I'm a Martian, so I don't really come from this planet. And so I'm always trying to figure out what the humans are doing. And I do that by running neuroscience experiments and measuring their brains because they can't tell me why they do what they do.
Mm.
And so most of the work I've done has focused on understanding the variation in decisions people make. So I think differences in decisions are a great way to quantify the broad variation in the human condition. If I can understand why you like vanilla ice cream and I like chocolate, that's kind of interesting. It's trivial, but it's interesting. But now to say why I, bought these mints instead of some other kind, that's kind of interesting. Why I helped my neighbor with their trash today, even though she's not even home and she didn't ask me, that's interesting. That's a social behavior, right?
Mm.
So a lot of the work I've done has focused on the underlying neuroscience of cooperative, trusting, pro-social behaviors.
Wow. But Paul, there's so many things with your curiosity. There can be anything in this world for you to do, right? Why you spend so many years on the research on neuroscience and human behavior like that?
It's a good question. I don't know. I think, as I started doing this, I started very early on when people started merging neuroscience with decision making.
Mm.
And so there was so much open field. There was just, blue ocean everywhere. And so it's um, personally very compelling.
Mm.
to make discoveries about how the human brain works. And I think that is a real motivator for me. And there's just no end of things to do. I always tell my graduate students, I'm a doofus and I discovered something interesting about the human brain. Imagine you graduate students who are super smart and, young and have all that energy, you'll probably discover all kinds of things too. So I think the brain is a really open frontier. And to take this laboratory science and then turn that into a technology, a product that people can use to improve their lives at scale, and that's really motivating. I mean, to be of service at scale to the human race, that's about as good as it gets for a career, in my view.
Wow. So I want to bring you to the starting point of what you decided to get into this career, because you say it's compelling. You say it's making you feel more interested, right, into this field because it's new. It's a whole new blue ocean over there. Which also means that there was nothing to start it at from the beginning. So when you started, how did you, like start from scratch like that?
Pretty much started from scratch.
Mm.
Yeah, it was really taking little pieces of information, particularly in animal research, and somehow combining that into a way to study what the humans were doing, and and also not knowing what I didn't know. I think particularly the early work I did in showing that this neurochemical oxytocin was a key neurochemical signal for cooperative behaviors in humans. I didn't realize how hard that would be and how many years, decades it would take to really understand that system. It just seemed like a cool technique to develop.
Mm.
And then it ended up being rather important. And so if something's important, you got to keep running with it. I've done lots of things that were not important. We try them and they fail and I just shut them down. So I'm a big believer in cutting your losses early. If the thing's a loser, I only have so much time and energy and money in my lab. So if things aren't working, they shut it down. So, but the things that work, keep exploring, keep developing. So I have a new book coming out called Immersion, The Science of the Extraordinary and the Source of Happiness. Apologies for a little bit of self-promotion, but that book is based on 15 years of my research. Like it took me 15 years to figure out and verify the factors that show that your experience that you're having is extraordinary, right? We don't want ordinary experiences, we want extraordinary ones. So that was 15 years of hard work, a lot of mistakes, about 10,000 blood draws I did on participants and experiments, imaging people's brains, tons of graduate students and postdocs working with me. It's a lot of work. So, people think, oh, well, you wrote a book. How cute is that? No, it's not cute. It was 15 years of hard, hard labor that at least some people seem to be interested in, and then put that in a framework and package that makes it understandable to a regular reader.
Mm.
I like doing that. That's exciting, right? I got all this stuff out of my brain now. It's all out in the world.
Yeah, I want to know why it excites you because when you say it's hard work and it took decades for you to do the research and try to make sense of the data, right? So it's a lonely process in there. You have to look at the information and try to connect in the dots, right? And so where did you find the strength to continue that path and then to look for a pattern in there and then come into the immersions and the book in immersion.
Yeah, that's a good question. A lot of it is lonely, but a lot of it also, I've been privileged to work with an amazing group of scientists and technologists to help me kind of bring this to fruition. So, yeah, I think that, the collaboration,
Mm.
the real privilege to spend 10 hours, 12 hours a day working with super smart people who, you know, complement and extend what I'm doing substantially. So I don't want to take credit for this. I tend to be I kind of come up with the crazy ideas and then, other people to figure out how to implement them. But sometimes even enough crazy ideas, some of those end up being useful, right? So, um, yeah, I think part of it is a weird personality, this sort of personality quirk of just infinite curiosity about the world. Um, and the second is the ability to bring together amazing people. And I want to thank again Claremont Graduate University that's employed me for 27 years and
Mm.
let me switch fields and let me build a big lab. And they've been really amazing, and lots of foundations that funded me and supported my research. So yeah, I don't have a good answer for you. Your question is very profound, actually.
Okay.
Why do any of us do what we do? I think I find it internally valuable. I
Mm.
find it externally valuable. People give me external feedback. Oh, this is awesome. You're helping us so much. We really like this. So you get that kind of positive reinforcement. And the third is somehow people want to buy into these crazy ideas I have and help me with them. And that's pretty awesome. So then you think, okay, maybe they're not completely crazy. Maybe this might actually work.
Wow.
So I'm not interested in refining other people's stuff. Like
Mm.
I don't want to stick in a lane. It's just not my personality. I don't find it interesting. Some people can just do that, just grind away on one little thing for their
Mm.
whole careers. I like to just completely, build these new fields
Mm.
and go, oh, here's some interesting tools over here, and here's some interesting problems. What if we put those in connection with each other and start to kind of solve problems? So I think I generally start with a problem
Ah.
that somehow I hear about, I think about, or increasingly people tell me about. This is a really hard problem that we have.
Mm.
Can you help us with that? And sometimes I can say, yes, I have some tools I've developed that can help. Sometimes I say, that's a great question. Tell me more.
Ah.
Let me come visit your company. Let me learn about that and see if I could be helpful.
Mm.
And that's really motivating. It's nice. It's nice to feel useful. It's nice to feel like you're helping other people.
Beautiful, beautiful. Paul, for so many years, how could you like fit on your curiosity and make it enlarging over the years like that?
Yeah, I mean, the great thing about being at a university where if you are entrepreneurial, then you can raise grant money, you marshal together resources and people, and I think make progress. And I think there's I tell my graduate students that there's a correlation, positive correlation between the quantity of work you do and the quality of work. You're not going to, in the U.S. vernacular, you're not going to be able to hit home runs if you don't
Mm.
get up at bat enough,
Mm.
right? I'm not interested in hitting singles and doubles. I hit those all the time. I'm looking for home runs. I'm looking for big wins.
Ah.
But I have to get at bat. I got to take enough swings where some of those are really going to win. And again, that's a weird personality. It means I work fast. I work a lot of nights and weekends. I work 7 days a week. Not because I have to, because I think it's important and I love it.
Ah, wow. So I want to go to the book that you spent 15 years working on that, right? So immersions, and congratulations for the releasing of that best selling. So
Thank
can you
you.
tell? Yeah, I
Oh.
know. Tell us about the idea of immersion and how did you get into writing it, Paul?
Yeah, let's start with the research. The research came primarily because of the U.S. war on terror.
Mm.
So right after 9/11, I started working with the U.S. government to try to identify how to reduce conflict in the world, to improve communication, to improve trust and cooperation, and all in the hopes of reducing the kind of terrorist activity that we see in a variety of ways. And so, in doing this work, the kind of core neuroscience question is, how do I get you to care about something that I care about?
Ah.
Right. So there's a lot of dimensions to that. One is you got to believe I care about it. You have to think I'm trustworthy. You have to think I'm being honest. So then we got to nail down those things. Where does trust come from? Is it relevant to you? What does relevance mean in the brain? Um, what's it mean to be persuasive? And so doing this work for a long time, we ended up identifying combination of signals in the brain that appear to capture the value the brain gets
Mm.
from a message or an experience. And we identified how to measure that, in fact, how to measure it in real time. So we had a tool that says, oh, when we see this thing come out of the brain, we know this is extraordinary. We know that this is so valued by this human being that they're very likely to act in a way you ask them to act,
Mm.
purchase a product, tell us where the bad people are, remember information in a class or training. And so this seems to be a core part of what the brain does, which is to do a cost benefit calculation and go, oh, this conversation with Ha is extraordinary. My
Mm.
immersion's very high. My brain is going to say this is important. So I will put a lot of metabolic energy into it. I will remember it. I'm excited to be here. It generates energy, right? All those things are fabulous. And so when we can capture that, and now we can capture it, well, as I said, with the smartwatch or fitness sensor, we can see in real time, like putting a speedometer on people's brains, like, wow, that was fabulous. That was amazing.
Ah.
And that's not so good. Then you have a real tool and you begin asking questions. And the most fundamental is, why are so many experiences that we consumers pay for so terrible, so awful, so frustrating? From standing in line to get your driver's license renewed, to shopping in half or more of the retail stores, to airline travel, we're paying for those experiences. Why are they not extraordinary?
Mm.
And I think part of the answer is that we haven't had a good measurement technology to assess extraordinary in a rapid and efficient way. So all of those industries I just mentioned now all use our software, the immersion software, to try to measure and improve, to measure and try to improve the experience that consumers get. Because I fly a lot of United Airlines. So if I'm on United Airlines and they remember my name, they remember what kind of drink I normally order,
Ah.
and they treat me with extra care and attention, I'm like, yeah, I love United Airlines. And they upgrade my family on a vacation flight because I fly so much. Oh, yeah, these people know me. They really take care of me. They value my business. And I know now almost every time I'm on a United flight, it's going to be amazing because
Mm.
I fly so much. They know me, right? I'm in the system. So they'll greet me by name. I was getting on a flight with my daughter from Brazil on United Airlines years ago, and I fly so much that the flight attendant recognized me. And in Brazil, it's very common when you greet someone to kiss them on the cheeks.
Ah.
And so they said, "Oh, hi, Dr. Zach. Nice to see you again." And this lady was Brazilian, and I was in Rio de Janeiro. And so I'm getting on the plane, and I just instinctively just gave her two kisses and got on the plane. And my daughter was like, "What? How do? How are you kissing the flight attendants? How do they know you?" I'm like, "Oh, I fly a lot. I go to Brazil a lot, and I just happen to know this lady." She goes, "That's weird." I said, "Yeah, but they really take care of me, right? I'm
Mm.
flying in business class or first. They know my name. That's the experience I want when I go to my retail store, when I go to this grocery store. I'd love to have them greet me by name. Starbucks drives me nuts.
Mm. The Starbucks not
Starbucks has
driving
an
you
app.
nuts.
So Starbucks has an app,
Uh-huh.
right? And I pay with my app, so I get points and some reward loyalty program. And then they say, what name should I put on your coffee cup? You have my app. So they should change the system. It should be, or if you're paying with the app, scan it now. And then say, oh, hi, Paul Zach, how are you? Hey, last time you were here, you ordered a black iced tea, no sweetener. Would you like the same thing today?
Mm.
Oh, gosh.
Yeah.
Now it's personalized at scale. And we can do that with technology, but it goes from what's your name? Welcome to Starbucks. Okay, whatever. I mean, no, they're nice. The people at Starbucks are nice. I shouldn't say that, but it could be an extraordinary experience, right?
Oh.
And so often it's not. And I think it's for lack of measurement. And the lack of measurement, you got me in a rant now, huh? Is because we ask people if you like this, and liking is very hard to assess on self-report. That's a conscious report of your unconscious emotional states. Our brains are not designed to do that, right? So how much do I like these mints? Compared to what? Compared to my children?
Ah.
Forget my children. They talk back to me. Compared to my dog's perfect. My dog's a perfect 10, right? So, but can I compare my dog to mints? It turns out in the brain you can. Again, there's a common valuation mechanism in the brain. So the brain is doing this all the time, and it has to do it because the brain is so energy costly to run
Ah.
that it's got to make trade-offs and go, dog, awesome experience. You got to spend some metabolic energy on this. Where, mints, okay, they're fine. Not super exciting to my brain, but they're okay.
Mm. So why in the brain that create that experience that like over the research that you've been doing, Paul? Which part of the brain?
It's a whole network. So it's
Ah.
really a whole series of brain from the prefrontal cortex that is doing this cost benefit analysis to areas in the brainstem that capture our unconscious emotional responses
Mm.
to the experiences we're having. So the key neurochemicals for listeners, if you know about chemicals in the brain, are dopamine and oxytocin.
Mm.
So dopamine is associated with this attentional response. I can either attend to you, Ha, or to something over here. I can't do both.
Mm.
I have to be attentive to that experience. And the second, the oxytocin effect, I call emotional resonance. It's got to be valuable to me emotionally. It's got to feel like, well, like again, when you see your children or your dog runs up to you when you've got home from work, like that dog's excited. That's an emotional response, right?
Mm.
And you have generally the reciprocating emotional response to that doggy love or children love or whatever, or your spouse, or for that matter, a great salesperson at a store that you go to. Welcome, Hod. So nice to see you again. Welcome back to our clothing store. You're like, oh wow,
Uh-huh.
okay. I love shopping here. They know me. They have some connection. So we published research, gosh, in the last year, showing that when people form emotional connections to brands neurologically, that is, they're immersed in that brand, they think the brand is of better quality and they will pay more for that brand.
True.
Right? That's what you want. You want to increase the experience the customer has, so you drive up customer lifetime value.
Mm.
You create loyalty, and the brain does this using this neurologic state I've called immersion that not only says this is valuable, it also creates a craving to repeat the experience. Isn't that what we want
Yep.
in everything? I want that with my friends, with my wife. I want them to continue to want to see me,
Yeah.
right? So we are immersed in people just like we're immersed in consumer experiences.
Paul, tell me a little bit about your software, the immersion software. How people use it for personal or for the company purposes?
Yeah, it's interesting. The original uses we launched 5 years ago were for improving marketing and consumer experiences.
Mm.
So marketing, advertising, reach out, and then live experiences. Then COVID hit,
Mm.
and stores were closed for a year or more. Movie theaters, some movie studios used our software to measure and improve things like TV shows and movies. That all shut down. And so increasingly, we're finding that companies, we sell to businesses, use our technology to assess how effective team meetings are, particularly when we have hybrid or remote workers, how effective classrooms are for children's learning, to facilitate both live and remote experiences to make those better.
Mm.
And then, most interesting to me in the last year, to really measure and improve emotional fitness among vulnerable populations. So that's everything from people living in retirement homes, elderly people who are at higher risk of depression than others are, to people who face high chronic stress in their jobs, content moderators, first responders, police, fire, military. So unless we can assess whether you are functioning effectively as a social component, as a member of your community, then we can't really intervene or motivate you to take advantage of resources that can keep you emotionally fit.
Mm.
What we don't want to do is see people who are burnout, who are depressed, who can't work, who can't function as full human beings. And again, for lack of a measurement technology, what we see is in the US, 3 million people quit the labor force during the COVID lockdowns.
Mm.
So between early 2020 and through the third quarter of this year, 3 million people left the labor force. And almost everywhere in the world, there are labor shortages, which actually occurred even pre-COVID.
Mm.
So we've got to keep the people working healthy and happy. We've got to keep patients who are suffering from anxiety and depression. We've got to motivate them to use the resources when often with people who are depressed, all they want to do is lie in bed and do nothing.
Mm.
But technology can help identify when they need these resources and to create interventions before people have a crisis. Isn't that beautiful? So
It
again, that
is.
the same common pathway in the brain that says, that I really enjoy these mints also tells me if I am an effective social creature, if I'm enjoying the benefits of being around other people, team members, family members. If I'm not getting that value, then my brain starts to kind of step away and I become isolated and I become depressed. So if we can identify that in advance, and we can with our technology, then we can alert people or alert their caregivers or loved ones that this person needs help. It could be as simple as, hey, call your elderly mother. She's been down for a couple days. Give her a call.
Mm.
Tell her you love her. Oh, isn't that great? That would be
It
wonderful.
is.
Or you have employees who are working too many hours and they're really getting burnt out. They're going to quit. Talk to them. Hey, you know what, you guys? 60-hour weeks are not sustainable. I want you to take off next week. Someone
Oh.
else can pick up your work. You got to take some time off, or we'd like you to talk to our counselor, right?
Mm.
So can you imagine how a police officer going to his or her supervisor and go, "Hey, Sergeant, I've worked too many hours. I'm just burnt out." I mean, that kind of first responder mentality, they would never do that. But if their phone told them, "Hey, you know what? The emergency software said you need a break,"
Mm.
right?
Yep.
So check in with your sergeant. Let's start to modify your work schedule, because the last thing we want to do is damage individuals. We want to keep them emotionally healthy, emotionally fit. But
Mm.
again, we don't even know our own emotional states with great clarity. So we need a piece of technology to know that, and that's what we spent. That's the culmination of my 15 years of work was in creating that technology. I'm sorry for the long answer, but it
It's
was such a
very
good question.
beautiful. Which stage of the technology, the software? Uh, what stage is it now? Is it already released or is still in
Oh,
test?
yeah, 5 years in. Yeah, we 5 years.
Oh,
So we have almost all the major professional services organizations use our technology. Very large companies whose names you would know. One of the ones I want to make sure I'm not violating any non-disclosures. Accenture is one of our longest-term clients.
essential.
Uses our tech in a whole variety of different ways, and they've been very public about that. So everything from improving training for their employees to working with their clients.
Beautiful.
So yeah,
Yeah, I think that where the world, where the world of marketing is trying to build the customer experience, or for organization building the employee experience. But your product, the driven that the reasoning behind what you do at building the human experience is that way better, bigger than just the customer or employee experience. So good job, Paul. Tell us between the extraordinary and then you find another piece of that is the happiness, and you try to make the book combining the two. How correlation between the two?
that's the deep question, and that's the tension in the book, which is the book is primarily about creating, from a business or organizational perspective, better consumer experiences, better employee experiences, healthier workforces. So how do we get to happiness out of that? And so there's emerging evidence from my lab and others that when people have enough of these peak immersion experiences, you begin to train the brain to be fully present, to be emotionally open, so that your social experiences are also improved. That is, your relationship with your spouse, with your family, with your friends. You're able to be more open and available to those
Um,
people. And as I'm sure you know, having a rich social set of social connections is more important to extending your health span than is quitting smoking. Although people shouldn't smoke, we are such deeply, profoundly, anatomically social creatures that we need those social connections. And when people lose them, or they're not very the quality of those connections is weak, they get sick more often and they die younger. So
mm,
none of us want that. So even if you are the most selfish person in the world, how do you build those social connections so you can live longer and happier? And this is where the conundrum comes in. You have to give to others. You have to help others. You have to serve others. You have to connect to others. When you do that, typically they will reciprocate and they're going to connect to you. It's like lunches. I'm at the age of my life where, when you go to lunch and someone pays, it's always really nice. I don't, it used to be I kind of would sort of roughly do an accounting, like, well, Bob hasn't paid like in 4 weeks or whatever. And I'd be kind of upset about that. Now I think, oh, what a privilege to have these dear friends. I'm happy to pay every week. I don't care. It doesn't have to be fair. I love to be of service to others. And when you are of service to others, they want to be around you. They want to help you too. So it's that reciprocation that these extraordinary experiences give us.
wow, so beautiful. Thanks for sharing that, Paul. If you can pick one chapter in the book that you really, really love, I know that all the chapters you love all the chapters, right? But you pick one and you want to share with the readers around the world. What would be that chapter and what it is about?
Oh, you're asking me to choose which of my children I love the best. That's not fair.
I'm sorry.
You know, I think honestly, the last chapter on happiness is the most compelling to me. And it's really in the book for a reason. If it was just a business book, that chapter and the one before it, which is on the ethics of persuasion and how to persuade people, wouldn't be in there. It would just be very functional. But I think the reason I love the last chapter is the overarching reason for all of my research and companies I've started is, as I said earlier, to improve people's lives. And so if you're a business person and you're creating extraordinarily valuable experiences for your customers, you're actually improving their brains. You're improving society by allowing them to have these amazing experiences and kind of stretching their brain to want more of them. So there's a real sacred mission that businesses have to try to not only sustain their profit growth and all that, but to really make the world a better place by being truly of service to your customers and your employees. And when you do that, the world gets better. How about that for a great pitch for the importance of business at creating a better world?
Absolutely, absolutely. And well, thanks a lot for sharing that. So the last chapter is something that really compelling to you, but I think it's also compelling to many, many, many people out there because at the end of the day, we are all humans, right? We crave for happiness, love, and be loved, right? So, and the leaders out there, they are responsible. Their responsibility not only to make the number or to make the employees happy, but build a system that can make a better place for everybody on earth, right? So a contribution, a little here, a little there, we make into that big contribution all together. um, Paul, I have two last questions for you for the day. And the first question I would ask you is about thinking. You think a lot and you make it onto action a lot. You create a lot of beautiful things. And then it started off from thinking. And my wife and I, we've been on the quest of looking ways to help people to improve their ability to think. So we interview people and we ask for their secret ways of thinking. So, Paul, how have you been helping you to expand your ability to think over the years?
Oh, what a good question. I think it is um, a willingness or even a desire to be wrong.
Hmm.
So if I'm wrong, I will learn something. So I often, as I said earlier, will get involved in research or even for that matter, activities in which I know almost nothing.
Hmm.
But I'll try to surround myself with people who do know a lot about it. And I can absorb that information and then I can practice, I can learn, I can make mistakes. So I tell my graduate students, that my dream every day in my lab is that they will tell me that I've made a mistake. Right? That's my chance to learn something. So that trying new things and failing is a wonderful opportunity to get better and sharpen your thinking.
Wow, thanks a lot for sharing that. It's the desire to be wrong and learn from the mistakes, right? And then surrounding you with amazing people. So along the way, you have new ideas, you have new feedbacks, you have new support, and the learning take place from there. Thank you for sharing that, Paul. So now we know that you grow up in the family of three sisters, right? Your father was an engineer at the university, so he gave you a lot of like freedom to be curious about things and learning. And then you move on in life and do amazing works in teaching people, and then you have your company learning about the neuroscience of the human, so and make it a technology for companies and people can use, right? So I want to go into the future a little bit here. Is there anything that exciting that Paul is doing and he wants to share with our audience so we can celebrate with Paul in advance?
That's a good question. Is that a work question or a personal question, huh?
Both or anything you decide.
Um, yeah, I think on the work side, the most interesting thing I'm doing now is really moving into digital health. to use our technology to bring health solutions to people at scale. And I think that is just super exciting to me, to have a way to assess objectively how well people are functioning emotionally. I think that's huge. Personally, let's see. What should you celebrate for me personally? Well, I just turned 60. How about that? Made to
Wow.
60. Never thought I'd live this long. So,
Happy
I'm
birthday,
now I'm on.
belated.
Thank you. Now I'm on. I'm living on extra time, and so I'm really blessed to have the life I've had, and have very nice people like you, Ha, who somehow are interested in, I think, my very boring life. But hopefully, I've been a little bit useful for my time on the planet.
Wow. You create a lot of things that really, really, really important for people. That make that help them to have the mental fitness, right? From through the works that they do. So that is very important. And the pandemic happened. That shows that piece of like the well-being was neglected over the years. Given organization been say for decades that people are created assets, but the reaction the reality is they're not. So I think this is the way for leaders and organization to make change and create hope for the next generation. When they go to work, they be happier at work and contribute more, right? Be more trust. So thanks a lot, Paul, for all of the works that you do. And I really want to say thank you for the generosity of you spending your afternoon joining our show and sharing the works that you do and the insights for our audience. We learned a lot today. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, I try to end every conversation, Ha. You are wonderful, with the word service. So I want to continue to be of service to you. So now we know each other. Please reach out anytime I can help you. It would be my pleasure to do so.
Thank you very much. Come to Vietnam, all right? Come to Vietnam for your 62nd birthday, and then we are here.
Perfect.
My
It's a
friend.
plan.
Okay. Can you stay on the line with me for just 1 minute after this?